Welcome to the Life Success and Legacy Podcast. We're glad you're here, and we hope you enjoy the episode.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the next episode of the Life Success and Legacy Podcast. My name is Chris Bay, and I'm joined by two of our Mikes. I've got Mike Crawford. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. And Mr. Mike Kwong, the professor. How are you, sir?
All right.
Representing today. Let's see that jacket. Tell people a little bit about that.
This is my home country. I was born in the Philippines, actually parents too. So thought I'd add some color today. Just weather turned a little bit chilly. I was like, perfect chance to wear it and represent.
Awesome.
What are you saying about Crawford and I in our pale white skin and black shirts?
In our black Life Success.
They add a flash of color to this team. Come on, let's.
I love it.
You got to represent, man. That actually, I love about how our client base, this is a total tangent, but how our client base has changed.
Yeah.
There was a day where Mike Everett could pronounce everybody's names of our clients. Today, there's a great number of our clients that all of us can just butcher those names, right?
Yeah.
We're just not. I love the diversity and the representation that Life Success and Legacy has now.
Yeah.
I actually had a really impactful and emotional for me conversation with Nino Gonzalez down at the think tank, or out in Las Vegas at the think tank. It was one of those hallway conversations.
Yeah.
And he just shared some information that really warmed my heart. So yeah, I love that about our client base. And Mike, you and Pay are a big reason for that. So thank you.
Absolutely.
We want to get this message out to anybody and everybody. And
yes.
We all know that there's certain voices that we might trust more than others. So good stuff. What in the world are we talking about today? Let's talk about a topic that many people sometimes question. In fact, just on our community platform, our Discord, there was a conversation going on this morning. One of our clients who was saying, my family is an example that IBC works for simple, not high dollar, fancy people. Like, they're just simple making it, right? And they're renters. They were able to negotiate 6 months of their rent in advance and get a discount. It's not like they're doing all these big, massive investments and things like that. They're just making IBC work for them in their simplicity. Mm-hmm. I love that. So one of the questions that people often ask is, they come to us and they're like, okay, do you have to be rich to do IBC? A resounding no.
No,
you do not have. And we're examples of that, right? Those of you who know my story, we were single income education family, struggling financially, doing the whole Dave Ramsey save up, pay cash thing, right? So the answer is resounding no. You do not have to be rich, wealthy to do IBC. It can still apply for you. Now, a question that we often get to when we start doing dream conversations with people is, we're already paycheck to paycheck. Can this work for us? Question one. Question two, can it actually create additional income for us? And maybe even a third question. Additional cash flow. Thank you, Crawford. Can it help us with additional cash flow? And the third question is something like, hey, within the next 24 months, we probably need to replace a vehicle. How are we going to do that? Because now we're all tied into this, into turning the wind current and paying ourselves and all that. So what we want to do is talk through some of those things, because those are real life situations that we have experienced and we help coach and teach people. So let's jump into that. First of all, when we are doing a dream conversation, there are several questions that we go through with you. Jeff King is our dream conversation guy. He's wonderful at it. And one of the very first questions is, first we paint the picture. Okay, let's say in 3 years' time, your life is you are so joyful and relaxed and feeling free because things are going in the direction you would want personally, professionally, and financially. It's not just about the numbers, it's about your whole life. We want you to create the life that you want. So if your life in 3 years is doing that, then we come down and the first question we ask is, what are the dangers that we have eliminated? What are those anxiety producers, those things that you lay in bed and think about or worry about? What are those things that suck energy from you, that add friction to your relationship, right? We know that happens. Yeah. What are those things that if we could remove those, it would free you up? That's the first question. We're going to dig into that. Number two is, what are the opportunities that you would like to capture? These are the things that give you energy and excitement. And then the third question is, what are your resources, skill sets, assets, relationships that we can leverage to accomplish those top two categories? Okay. So oftentimes when people meet with us, you guys, they're like, we'd like some breathing room in our monthly budget. It is tight, right? And so, Mike Crawford, you want to jump into this? Like when we start talking about this on Mondays during strategies, we go through and we're looking for activators and those kinds of things. What are we looking for in that scavenger hunt?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of trying to find, I'll call it like the loose change. You know, it's the extra payments that we were told we should send to our credit cards or our mortgage payment. You know, it's the the old IRA that, you know, sitting out from another business or a company that you used to work for that you haven't touched in years, and it just sort of sits there and you talk about it once a year with your financial guy or person. And, you know, we're just sort of looking for those activators, those things that we can kind of kickstart this program, this IBC plan for you and your family, and give you that, you know, hope at the end of the tunnel. You know, and I've told my story before too, is when Mary and I started, we had nothing. You know, we didn't have enough money as a HELOC to borrow because our mortgage was pretty new. You know, I hadn't, but we did have an old 401k from a job that I had been away from for about 5 or 6 years. And we'd noticed that it just wasn't performing, you know, partially because we didn't really know what we were doing. I mean, seems like the Wild West for investments, you know, but, you know, we also were sort of like, what if we liquidated some of this? Like, what's our option there? How does that free up some cash for us? And that's what we did, you know, and, you know, it was the best decision we ever made.
Yeah. Mike Kwong, when you're meeting with people and you're kind of thinking through their activators, those things that are out there, what are some of the examples of activators that you come across?
Well, I mean, sometimes, you know, it's as simple as a rainy day fund, right? I mean, people have that where you kind of stash away 6 months worth of expenses or even 3 months, whatever you can. And it's often just sitting in a really, boring savings account, which is great because it's safe, but it's earning peanuts, first of all, and even the peanuts are taxable, right? And the concern is, you know, you have to have access to the, to that fund. And certainly, you know, the way we build policies, you can still enjoy some, you know, quite a bit of access, a majority of that, whatever capital that you start a policy with. So I've seen that. A big part is just kind of, you know, aside from lump sum capital, and we'll talk about it, is freeing up the direction of your cash flow, right? Where are your dollars kind of seeping out of your system? These leaks and holes that we don't think about or even recognize. So when we look for these opportunities, it's not always just a lump sum. Maybe there's a flow that we can kind of redirect, you know, sooner than later.
Absolutely. I'll put some meat on the bone here with a real life example. So back when we were learning about IBC back in 2010, 2011, I was working for the school district. I went to them and tried to liquidate my 403B and quickly learned that, as long as I work for them, I can't do that. I was like, wait a second, that's my money, right? So that's how uneducated I was with my own, like you just said, Mike, like we don't even know what our money's doing or where they are or what the rules are around it, right? And I was an example of that. This 403B that I've been contributing to for 20 plus years, Didn't know the rules around it. I didn't even know what it was invested in, to be honest. Not a clue. I just, the teacher next door said, hey, you ought to start doing this in my first year of teaching. And so I just had them deduct it from my paycheck.
Yep.
And felt, now cross your fingers and hope, right?
Yep.
So when we started learning about IBC, we didn't have access to retirement funds. We were already living pretty much paycheck to paycheck. We even owed money to some medical providers, right? So we're in a pretty negative situation. What we did have was some equity. So in our case, the scavenger hunt, as Mike Everett was going through it, he's like, boom, that's your activator, right? So we were able to, at the time, start a home equity line of credit. And what we did is we borrowed against our house. We ran some of that through our policies and then pulled the cash value out 2 weeks later, added it to some additional money, and then we attacked debt. And we paid off that wind current. We changed that wind current of that outside debt, right? So we're talking car loans, credit card debt, all those kinds of things. We attacked it, paid it off, and turned those payments our direction. We're making the payments. We're still honest bankers. We're still making those payments, but we're making them to who? Ourselves, which means we get to reuse that money. So we knew that as we turned that, we would have the ability to pay our future premiums, right? Our premium deposits, because we had turned that money. But let's just take it a step further. Let's just say, as an example, we were able to turn $1,000 a month our direction. But let's just say that Sean comes to me and says, we're running short every single month by about $250. What if, instead of turning that full $1,000 a month in loan repayments, what if we just turned $750 a month, and we actually now absorb and utilize in our monthly budget $250 to give us a little bit more breathing room, right? Can we do that? Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So on our end, what we're doing is, when we do the dream conversation, we talk with people, we find out what we're trying to accomplish. We then design that policy premium deposit where, if they turn $750 a month, that direction, I think over 12 months, that's like $9,000. We're going to make sure that that premium deposit is $9,000 or less. Mm-hmm. So they don't have to worry about it, and they get to pocket $250 a month to help with their monthly budget.
Yeah. I mean, we've even gone as far with clients for, during the dream conversation, we realized they'd never taken like a honeymoon.
Yes.
They'd never gone on a
couple
vacation
in Texas. I remember that plan.
And, you talk about this every boot camp, Chris, is like one of the top 3 things that families struggle with is financial conversations. And can you imagine years of marriage and partnership and not having that opportunity to really bond with your person? I know honeymoons are a Western thing, and it's a, whatever, but there's still a mental aspect of like getting away with your person or doing a thing with your person that is extremely valuable. And to be able to help work in, it took a minute. It wasn't like day one, but like to help work in a plan where there was some hope at the end of that tunnel that they would be able to do this special thing with one another, was that the reason we do what we do is things like that, in my opinion. Like it is as much of an enjoyment for us to see that victory,
absolutely,
as it is for them to get to experience it. And so
this is a slightly off topic, but it also applies. We have a couple we just met with this week, and they just had a baby, and the husband is just finishing his undergrad work on counseling. He'll graduate in December, here in 3 weeks. And then he is starting his master's degree, which will be a 3-year program. And they had a baby. So his wife is a therapist, and she is the primary breadwinner. Mm. We developed a plan for them where they could make it through several months with no income. No income. We developed a plan where they could make it through several months with no income, and they knew exactly what they were going to do. They're actually ahead of their target right now. And she's just now going to start from home, part-time, doing some more sessions with clients. And we've got a plan, and we walked them through the whole thing. So again, there's so many examples with our clients of where, okay, money might be tight, or we need a little bit more breathing room, or Mike Crawford, let's take a look at something that we do in the boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
We, if you wouldn't mind opening up your the software, and let's talk through a piece of the boot camp that we do, where we talk about a family where they know that within the next 24 or 36 months, they're going to need to purchase a vehicle or replace a vehicle.
Yeah. So, without going through the whole presentation, this is the strategy portion of our software. For those of you who've seen this before, if you're listening on audio, apologies, check out our YouTube channel to look at this if you're curious. But the long and short is that when we look at the debt sequencing for a family, and this is John and Jane Doe, so this is, whatever, but we look at the debt sequencing for a family. One of the things that does come up quite often is like a future debt. Chris, you talked about it earlier in the podcast, where maybe in 24 months, they're going to have to buy or replace a vehicle. And so we can actually show using the software what that might look like for this family. And so we look at this, future debt, like in May of 2025, where this vehicle needs to be purchased. And so we add it in just like it's a normal debt. But what we do is it doesn't actually enter this strategy until that timeline, until May of 2025 in this example. So, again, not going through all the numbers, but let's just say we get through year one, we, have activator, we get policies going, pay off a chunk of debt, we turned wind current, we're cooking with grease, and everything's kind of just flowing, downhill here, which is good. We get to year two, which is in this example when that future debt would arrive. And so as I approach that here, you'll see a couple of things real quick. Number one, we have this kind of blue-gray line where the new future debt does enter the picture. So this is when that debt will show up in the strategy now that we've reached that timeline. And so as we look down here, we kind of notice, like in this payment column here, this is our wind current payment back to ourselves. This is, as Chris described earlier, all the dollars that we, and even Mike Kwong said, the dollars that we had seeping out of our system that we've redirected, plus the debts that we've currently paid off, now are coming back into our system on a monthly basis. This is where we're honest bankers and taking care of that inside debt while we are continuing to pay off the outside debt as well. So if we look at this in month 13, we have $1,750 going towards our system, paying down this policy loan, which is the second from right column over here, which obviously is going to get bigger every year as we borrow from it to pay off those outside debts. But we're going to just continue to pay it down because we'd rather own that debt and be a mutual owner of that debt through the company and the mutual company that we work with, right? So we look at this here, and you'll notice in this third column here, the wind current change. And in most cases, it's a positive number, but you'll see here in month 17, it is a negative number, that negative 325. And that's actually when that future debt, that vehicle that we added in, came into the picture. Now, we're showing an example here because the family did not want to come up with dollars out of their normal monthly budget. They want to redirect as much as they can to IBC, but they also don't have enough on the bone, if you will, to absorb a $325 car payment. So how do we help them? Well, the software can allow us to borrow from our wind current and redirect those dollars into their normal cash flow for the month and reduce the amount that they're sending back to themselves. That doesn't make us less honest bankers. That just makes us flexible and gives us opportunity and options that we may not have had otherwise, right? So now instead of the $1,750 for the next little bit, we're going to send $1,425 back to ourselves. That's still quite a chunk of change. We're still going to pay down our policy loan, and we're still going to get to our end goal. And as we look here, if I scroll down to year 3, nothing really fun happens. We pay our premiums, and we just continue to pay down on these remaining debts, which is that now current debt, not a future anymore, and the other vehicle that we had in the hopper to start the system. So we pay through this. We're still sending $1,425 a month back to ourselves. We pay down on our policy loan. Everything's looking good. So we get to year 4. And in this example, this is really sort of like the ta-da moment, right? Where we have paid our premiums. We had enough dollars to pay premiums. We didn't have to come up with any outside new monies. We take that 1425, that we've been sending ourselves, and everything's working out. We pay off the Camry, and we get to re-add that 325 back to our system. So we borrowed it for a few months to pay this future debt, this current debt now. And now that it's paid off, because we rapidly pay off debt, using our system, we're going to add that 325 back into the system. And now we're back up to that 1750. And we're just chomping down on the policy loan. And we get to month 46 and we end up paying off that final outside debt, which happens to be another vehicle. We add the 450 back in. And in 47 months, we've recaptured $2,200 that was seeping out somewhere in this family's system and going to other entities, loans, debts, etc., all that stuff we looked at. And now we're recapturing those dollars for them. So by taking a short break from that 325 with our wind current, we didn't affect the long-term success of our plan. We gave the family some breathing room, and we were able to help them finance this vehicle through an outside loan, yes, but finance it through their system so that they could pay it off quickly and get rid of all their outside debt. And so, yeah, that's kind of the abbreviated version of how we accomplish future debts, or things that come up. It doesn't have to be a vehicle even, it could be, if you've ever priced, heaters and air conditioning units for your home, that could be a major debt that we have to finance elsewhere, whatever it is. So, yeah.
That's great, Crawford. Thank you for sharing that. Mike Kwong, it kind of makes me think, even in the context of DIBS, right, is sometimes we talk about doing a split, right? Where you want to keep your investments rolling on this side, but maybe there is a purchase that needs to be made, replacing a vehicle or something, that you might do a split and be able to make that purchase or whatever. In that case, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the idea is the direction of your financial trajectory. And we often have that zero line example, like you perfectly draw on the yellow pad. Some people exist below that. And that's real life. You've got a lot of debt, a lot of, negative, cash flow. And it's fine if you can just, shore that up and bring yourself up to that zero level line every month. And then, on the other side, once you get past that, or, you want to start building above that zero line, you can certainly do that. And what you mentioned, life happens where it's not always that linear, right? Sometimes we have both. We have income and we have debt. And the beauty of these policies is the flexibility that's available for you to either attack debt, build income, or do both, right? And that could start with two policies, one for debt and one for income. So it doesn't have to be any one way that you can improve your situation, which is really cool.
Go ahead, Crawford. Do you have a
No,
comment?
it's really cool. That's
It is. It's incredibly rewarding for us to, one, learn what people are wanting to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't tell people what they should be going for. Like, it's your life, right? But when we learn what it is that you want to create in your life, and then we get to help make that happen over years of relationship with you and ongoing coaching, it is incredibly rewarding for us. So a couple things I would say as we wrap up here. I don't think we've ever shown our software on one of our podcasts.
I think I've done screenshots. I've never done a screen share where I actually actively show a live strategy.
So for those of you who are seeing this for the first time, and I know on that sheet there's a ton of numbers and you don't have context, we don't expect you to understand all that. We more wanted to give you a visual as we talk through how we could help someone finance a vehicle, a purchase, in the midst of their income snowball, or in the midst of their IBC plan, or if they're doing a snowball or whatever. But if you want to take a deep dive into IBC, what we encourage you to do is go to our website at lifesuccesslegacy.com and register for a webinar first. That's about a 70 to 80 minute presentation, and it summarizes some of the key concepts inside Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker. And then after you've done the webinar, we recommend that you sign up and register for a boot camp, which is a 3-hour deep dive into infinite banking. The first half of the boot camp is us teaching, and actually a part of that, Crawford goes through the software in detail and shows an example over 8 years. We draw pictures to show how that whole thing comes together and how we do the scavenger hunt. And you will have a really clear understanding about how IBC works after that. The second half of the boot camp is 100% Q&A. It is questions from the participants. And we dive in, we explain, there's a dialogue, a conversation that happens. We want to make sure that people walk away and we have been able to answer any questions that they have. Now, do we get into their personal situation? Not really. This is more generalities and examples. When we get into your specific situations, we then do a consultation. One of us with the coaches, you'll sign up with one of us that you feel comfortable with, and we do a consultation with you, and we really get to know each other and find out what your goals are and kind of where you are in life. And then we do the dream conversation. Jeff King does our dream conversations with our clients to find out those things that we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. And then you will also submit your financial information to our software. So we'll have your financial information and your dream conversation. We marry those two together. And as a team, we design a strategy based on the goals that you told us you wanted to accomplish. We present that to you in a draft. We make little tweaks here and there to make sure it fits exactly how you want it to fit. Make sure you don't have any questions. We always tell people a couple things. One, if we can't put you in a better position tomorrow than you are today, you should not do IBC, and we'll tell you you should not do IBC, right? That's rare that happens, but it does happen from time to time, okay? So that's one thing that we want to make sure that you have that confidence and we can put you in a better position. Secondly, we do not want you to have any of that angst, that feeling in your gut of anxiety or I'm not sure. IBC should build freedom. It should build hope. It should be a situation where you feel very competent and confident about the direction that you're going with this, and your goals are laid out for you, and we can show you in 8 years what that could look like, right? So that's kind of our whole process. We want to make sure that we do a good job of educating everyone. We answer their questions. We design the plan according to their goals and their financial situation. Guys, anything I've missed that you want to add to this before we wrap up?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Again, we do encourage you to go to our website at lifesuccesslegacy.com. Please register for a webinar and a boot camp. We would look forward to seeing you there. And join us again at our next podcast. Thanks for joining us.